Over Easter weekend, a video went viral which sparked perhaps a stronger reaction than you might expect. That is, you might not have expected the strong reaction if you've been cryogenically frozen for the past half century and were just thawed out and introduced to the internet 30 seconds ago. But anybody with a bit more experience in cyberspace knows that literally anything sparks a strong reaction, especially anything involving politics, religion, or airplanes. If you combine the three, you've got a real powder keg on your hands. Not literally, we hope. That brings us to this video, which shows a group of people on a flight standing up and singing Christian worship music on the flight. One of them is standing in the aisle with an acoustic guitar. We know that man with the guitar is named Jack Jens Jr. He's a pastor and the founder of Kingdom Realm Ministries, it's called. He and his crew were traveling across Europe and into Ukraine, apparently, over the past few weeks. We know all of this because the media has published some not so favorable stories about this incident, and Jens has actually been doxxed on Twitter by the outrage mob. Some prominent people have joined the backlash, such as Ilhan Omar, who tweeted on Saturday, quote, "I think my family and I should have a prayer session next time I'm on a plane. How do you think it will end?" Yeah, some people play music on a plane. Ilhan wasn't even there, and yet she has found a way to make herself the victim of it. Ilhan is good at playing this game. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, except instead of connecting an actor to Kevin Bacon, she's able to connect any event in the world to her own personal victimhood narrative. It's almost impressive. But before we address Ilhan's claims in any more detail, let's first watch the controversial video in question. Now, let me just say up front that I can very much relate to the bald guy in the foreground staring helplessly into the camera. You can see him right there. Some of the passengers seem to be relatively pleased with the performance, but I think I'd be reacting more like that guy right there. This would be, in many ways, like this situation for me, would be my personal hell. I appreciate the message of the song, but I really personally, from an aesthetic standpoint, cannot stand acoustic youth pastor Christian music. The idea of being trapped in a metal tube 30,000 feet in the air with a guy strumming his guitar 2 feet from my eardrums is traumatizing to think about. If I was in an exit row, I might consider making a break for it. This is almost as bad as somebody eating an onion bagel in the seat right next to you, an experience that I've suffered through on more than one occasion. In those cases, with respect to the bagel chompers, I think it'd be legally and morally justifiable for the air marshal to just escort the offender off of the plane in the middle of the flight. I would not advocate for the same penalty for the worship team in the video because at least their hearts are in the right place. But I do think that you should just give people a choice before subjecting them to contemporary Christian folk music. Consent is key. I mean, I'm Christian and I don't even like it. You can't just assume that everybody wants to hear that. I mean, what if somebody stood up in the aisle and started yodeling? What if a polka band played accordion music all the way over the Atlantic? What if, God forbid, Beyonce was on the flight and started singing a cappella? I mean, where does it end? My problem is with the singing then, not with the message. But for Ilhan Omar and the others in the online outrage brigade, it's the opposite. And that's why none of these people complained when the cast of The Lion King sang The Circle of Life on a plane in Australia. Let's watch that again. My God, it's an epidemic. Imagine being stuck in a plane with that. That's again my nightmare. I'm already on a plane, and then the plane turns into High School Musical. I'd want to be dead. And yet, if I bring my kids on a plane and they make a noise louder than a whisper, everyone in the surrounding rows will turn around and give us icy glares of death. Like, God forbid your kid make any sound at all. And yet these people could turn the whole flight into a Broadway performance. That strikes me as a double standard. Meanwhile, Ilhan Omar is looking for a different double standard. She says that she and her family, if they prayed on a plane, people would get upset. Well, first of all, given that Omar married her brother. Prayer is certainly not the most upsetting thing that Omar does with her family. Second, I don't need to speculate about what would happen if Muslims prayed on a plane. I was just recently on an 18-hour Qatar Airways flight to and from Africa. Muslim prayer is so common on those flights that they actually put the coordinates to Mecca up on the seatback screens to help facilitate it. On many flights around the Muslim world, they'll actually play an Islamic prayer over the intercom before takeoff. Muslims are not shy about expressing their faith loudly and publicly. Many mosques, including in the United States, will play the Islamic call to prayer over loudspeakers throughout the day so that the whole town can hear it. And what if any white person were to complain about any of that? What if I had whined about the Muslim prayer on my Qatar flight? What if someone who lived near a mosque said that they didn't want to hear the Muslim call to prayer? How would Ilhan Omar respond to that? Well, we all know she'd rush to the scene and start vomiting words like bigotry and Islamophobia all over the place. She's searching for a double standard, but all she needs to do is look in a mirror. She's the one with the double standard, as usual. Now, you might point out that the Muslim prayer on flights generally happens in and around heavily Muslim areas of the world. Fair enough. But the West is heavily Christian. Not as much as it used to be, not as much as it should be, but still predominantly Christian, according to any survey I've ever seen on the subject. So it's the same old story here. Ilhan Omar does not believe that anything in the West should reflect the West's dominant historical culture and religion. The Middle East is allowed to wear its Muslim culture with pride, but the West cannot do the same with its historical Christian culture, according to Omar. Ilhan Omar was born in Somalia, which is one of the worst places on earth. It is an absolute hellhole. It's a wasteland, a failed state. Her family fled that place, sought refuge here, and they were welcomed with open arms. And yet she despises her adopted home. The Christian West took her in, elected her to Congress, made her one of the most influential people in the country, and still she has no gratitude. She has no love for the place that saved her life, or for the place, or for the people who inhabit that place. She came into this culture, our culture, and immediately decided that the culture must change. Not just change, but be entirely dismantled and rebuilt to reflect her own ideology and priorities. And if you think that the last statement there is reading a little bit too much into her complaining about people singing Christian songs on a flight, you'd be right, but I'm not reading that into her reaction to the flight video. I'm actually just quoting her directly. Let's listen to that.
As long as our economy and political systems prioritize profit without considering who is profiting, who is being shut out, we will perpetuate this inequality. So we cannot stop at criminal justice system. We must begin the work of dismantling the whole system of oppression wherever we find it.
Dismantle the whole system. Gets here from Somalia and wants to dismantle it all. And, you know, she's coming from a country that is entirely dismantled, where all the systems are dismantled. So you'd think she would have had her fill of that by now. So the reason why her complaints about the Christians on the flight rub some of us the wrong way is that it's consistent with a long-established theme. And that theme is Omar's lack of gratitude. And that, in fact, is a much broader theme that encompasses more than just Ilhan Omar. We don't inculcate or encourage gratitude in any of the people who we accept into our country, or any of the people born here naturally. That's the underlying issue. It goes a lot deeper than what she said about people singing on a plane. And it's for this deeper underlying reason that Ilhan Omar is today, probably not for the first time, and certainly not for the last, canceled. Listen, hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.